too late to sit down and pen another verse. Music is my therapy.
Hello and good evening, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome for those that have just joined us for the first time. Some of you may have migrated over from the FA Cup third round reaction show. Thank you for joining me there. But yes, this is F1, your Monday night pit stop. I am the guy that twiddles the buttons and presses them in and out to see if they work. Hopefully it does. I can see some are watching us, so it should be. I'm not the F1 aficionado or Miss Positivity. They're here to break down what was, well, what can you say about the Saudi Arabian race? Just wow. But it was won by Hamilton to take it to the last race of the season. One more race. The winner will decide. Whoever finishes above each other will decide who takes the title. As Mike Baker says, I called it on your show 3 weeks ago. Hamilton would take the world championship at the last race. Well, it looks like you're almost there, Mike. You're almost there. Good evening, Harry. I hope you're well. Don't forget, for those watching this back, get involved. Leave a comment in the YouTube comments. If you're watching live, leave a comment. What do you make of the F1? Great racing at the moment. So you may just be a new fan to the sport. I am. And of course, you can listen to us on all podcast platforms. I'll bring in the true guest, the real aficionado. Stephen Thompson, welcome back. How are you? How are you today?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I am very well. What a race yesterday.
Man, what a race. Where do you even start with that?
Where do we even start with that? Let's start with some comments. We've got Ben Moore. Hi again. How's things? What a race yesterday was. What race yesterday was. Max could nick the win last race. And Mike Baker says, as for yesterday's race, Max Verstappen is a danger to himself and other drivers around him. His aggressiveness will be his downfall. Let's start with that then, Steve. Verstappen's aggressiveness is a danger to himself and other drivers. What says you, Mr. Aficionado?
He's divided opinion, hasn't he? All through his career, not just this season, but this season probably more than ever. The trouble is with Max, he's one of the greatest drivers on the grid right now, but he still gets very hot-headed. You know, he's lucky that he was so far ahead of third place yesterday that a couple of penalties still, he got second place. I think it bided his time. I think there was confusion yesterday over that the incident with Hamilton running into the back of him.
Yep.
There was a lot of tactics at play there because no driver wanted to be the second one across the DRS line they didn't want to be the first over the DRS line. They wanted to be the second driver over that line because they get DRS for the straight like Max did.
Yep.
I wouldn't say he's
Is he a danger to himself?
No, I wouldn't say he's a danger because on his 90% of the time he's insanely good. He is so good, but you get those odd little moments. I mean, every driver has those little red mist moments, But I think Max just needs
him more
to
so
learn.
than others, it seems, though.
Yeah, he need. Well, I think one thing we still forget is he is quite a young guy still. I mean, we can't make excuses like that too much because he's been in Formula One for a good few years now, and he has calmed down a bit. But this is the first time he's been in a championship fight in his F1 career. He's never actually. I don't think he's actually won a championship before. Which
no, he hasn't.
Someone
He's never won a championship.
and he skipped Formula 2. So for someone still this young and sort of this relatively inexperienced in championship fights. This is insane for him to be the first championship he could take in his motorsport career could be Formula One, and he just needs to learn.
Has that got to him a little bit? Do you feel? Because obviously he was leading, and now he's not leading. It's now neck and neck, winner take all. In other sports, you'd say it's to Tottenham. They've choked a little bit. Do you feel that, or do you feel what we're seeing is just really, truly impressive racing from one of the greatest of all time in Lewis Hamilton?
This is. I think with Max right now, it's going to be getting to him a little bit because no matter what he says about, he said before, if he doesn't win it this year, he'll try again next year. But you want to win it, you're in Formula One to win the championship. And at one point, Lewis was a fair bit ahead, and then things changed, and Verstappen had a decent lead, and then it changed again. Mercedes they've just managed to squeeze out a little bit of extra performance out of that Mercedes, which has given them the edge. I think Red Bull have had the more consistent car over the course of the season, but now Mercedes have got that edge. And that is going to be worrying him a little bit. And it just feels, some of it feels a bit like, if you're playing Formula One on the PlayStation and someone's coming up to pass you, you just think, yeah, I'll just squeeze them over a little bit, because it's only a game. But unfortunately, this is not a game. So
no, exactly. It's people's lives that and careers and all of that jazz. Got Ben Moore. Barnsley is like Haas, pointless being there, but so much promotion from the drivers and players. Interesting way of looking at it, Steve.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Haas, to be honest. I like the way the team is run. Gunther Steiner is a great team principal. They've got a very good driver in Mick Schumacher, and they've got a guy who is clearly quick in Mazepin, but not as quick as Mick, and unfortunately a bit more inconsistent. Although I was saying yesterday that of all the incidents this year, Mick seems to have had the bigger crashes, but Mazepin has been the one who's sort of getting in drivers' way, tripping over other drivers, and having more sort of little moments. Whereas Mick, if Mick wants to bin it, he does it in a big way. Yesterday proved that again. He crashed heavily, and he started the chain of events that unfolded. And unfortunately, Mazepin retired as well. He had nowhere to go. Everyone in front of him jammed their brakes on, and he went straight into the back of George Russell, which is a huge shame for George, racing in the first race for the team since Frank Williams passed away. It was a difficult race for Williams.
It was, yeah. Well, have Haas announced that either or both drivers are returning next year, or have they not yet made that announcement?
Yeah, they're both there for next year.
Okay. So not to take too much from the comment, one more to go and then we move on from Gunther Steiner. We've got Mike Baker, and Max reminds me of that kid the spoiled kid at Christmas. He doesn't get what he wants. He throws his toys out of the pram. He's good, but far too reckless. Fair point, to be fair.
I think with Verstappen, someone, it's tricky, isn't it? It's a delicate thing. He's an insanely good driver, that we've seen. To jump into Formula One, he won on his first ever race for Red Bull. And he was very good for Toro Rosso before that jump up. I think for him, he's never had this experience before of fighting for a Formula One World Championship. He's going up against Lewis Hamilton, of all people, to fight for a World Championship, someone who has won 7 titles, which is no mean feat at all. And I think what's getting to him a little bit, like I say, no matter how calm he appears on the exterior, is that he had this title almost in the bag, and Mercedes have just turned that screw and they've turned it around. I think how different could it have been had Max not had that tyre blowout in Azerbaijan, had he not come together with Hamilton in Silverstone, and had they not come together again in Baku, in Monza.
He does have a lot of incidents though, doesn't he? Let's be honest.
I think the things obviously with Hamilton this year, Monza, I don't know. It's that incident in Monza. Verstappen could have waited because I think Red Bull had the quicker car that weekend. I think he could have potentially passed Hamilton again. Silverstone, well, there's blame on both sides there, but then that was rather than digging up old ground.
Yes, don't go back to that. Whatever you do, Ben Moore, Max
still a delicate issue.
So doesn't have the championship experience. If you had that experience, I don't think he's a reckless driver that we see. Right, let's bring in your tag team partner. He's here.
Wake up to the, wow. Wake up to the money, turn me right on. You look like you got dressed with no lights on. A Superman that spin like a cyclone. Fit check, spin like a cyclone. Wake up to the money, turn me right on.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
Hello, Mr. Neil Miles. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Ooh.
Good man. We're in the middle of it. Well, we've just not long started. 9 minutes into the show.
What have I missed?
Well, just getting really into the Max Verstappen conversation. Is he too reckless? We'll go back to what Mike Baker said here. Get your thoughts. As for yesterday's race, Max Verstappen is a danger to himself and other drivers around him. His aggressiveness attitude will be his downfall. Would you go along with that? Because Steve is a little hesitant on the topic. I think it's probably fair to say he's not quite ready to say he is. But what do you feel?
I feel we need to tread lightly because you don't want to quash what he is. He is a good driver and he is exciting. And there's a lot of fans out there that really like him. But I have to agree with the fact that he is a bit too far. That lunge he did into the first corner that made Hamilton drive into Ocon. And yeah, he had no consideration. I know technically, I guess if you're in his position and if he had a dilly-dallied any less, it would have been a worse collision between the three. But the fact that he got out of the way, but he hacked absolutely straight across the front of them with the quickest speed you could imagine. And it was reckless. And then with the fact that he, on one of the overtakes that Hamilton tried to do on him, he just left it so late that the tail end of his car almost came round on him, and he just had no interest in making the corner whatsoever, in which Hamilton almost made with having to dodge him.
The thing with Max, his racecraft is so good that of all the drivers on the grid, he has got some of the best racecraft on the grid. You know, that move he did around the outside of the Mercedes in Mexico was just absolutely incredible. And we have seen so many good moves from Max, not just this year, but since he's been in Formula One. But it just seems that every now and then he'll just forget that, and he will think he's. We don't know how his brain's working, because chances are we're not going to be in a Formula One championship fight. We might have left it a bit too late.
No, that's right. That's true.
But
isn't it nice to finally have a championship battle though? Like after so many years of there not being one, this is going to bring fans back to the sport, isn't it? This is going to be a real. Because it's one race left, winner takes all situation, isn't it?
It's incredible. If you'd have said like last year when Hamilton was absolutely running away with it, that next year we'll have a championship fight where the championship contenders go into the last round on even points between a Mercedes and a Red Bull, I wouldn't have believed them, to be honest, because you had so many years of just Mercedes. Exactly. You've had so many years of Mercedes dominance. And you think, no, come on. Final race of the season, they're tied on points? Rubbish. From a neutral perspective, this would be incredible. I mean, people know that I would rather have Verstappen win a title this year than Hamilton. I think it would mix it up a little bit as well. But from a neutral point, this is insane. If this is your first season watching Formula One, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. J Crick 12, what do you make of this comment, Neil? This season just shows that Hamilton doesn't get the respect he deserves. He performs when the car isn't up to scratch. When the car is good, he's unstoppable unless Max pushes him off the track.
I'm not sure is that amongst fans or the drivers? Because
what do you
I'm not sure if Max is disrespectful to other drivers. It's just his style. He's just aggressive with his manner of how he gets moves done. Yeah,
I've seen the same in the past. Senna.
Yeah.
What do you think of the tactics for letting past only just enough that I can then get a slingshot and whip straight past him again?
Very clever. I don't know if any other drivers would have been clever enough to do that. Some of them would have just let him go. Very wily from Verstappen.
And what do you think of the detection zone bit with having to let the place back a second time?
Yeah, there's. I don't even know where to start with that one, to be honest. People are saying, why doesn't Hamilton pass him? Which he should. If you see his car going slowly ahead of you, pass them. But I think with that, it was a case of not wanting to be the first car across that detection line, because you'll just get a slingshot straight past that other car again.
The thing is, Hamilton didn't know what he was up to. He hadn't got the message yet. And Max was a little bit in the middle of the road because there's a slight curve when he started slowing down. So he was pretty much in the middle for that part. And then as soon as it straightened up a bit more, he was still on the racing line. You thought if he's giving the place back, he could have got off the racing line and made it obvious, but he didn't.
No.
And I thought originally that Hamilton had just got too close. He didn't realise how much car was in front of him, so he got a bit too close, and while quickly trying to accelerate round him, he made contact. But as it come out, Max got a 10-second penalty for was it 2.4 G worths of braking he did, and that was considered severe enough that he got the penalty.
12. Max is starting to become a villain. Even his supporters can't defend him. Is the pressure getting to him, Neil? Because what Jay Crick says there is very true. Is the pressure getting to the driver that's never won a championship at any level?
To be honest, I have no idea what he's like in junior formulas, but yeah,
he's championship less at every level. I think is what I've read. So is this pressure to get into it? Because he's, if this was a football term, you'd be saying he's done a Tottenham. He's sort of choking a little bit here, having led for so long. Yeah,
and also through no disrespect to his father, but he was never an amazing driver, was he? So no. Max is, leaps and bounds a better performer in a racing car than his dad is. So unlike, say, Nico, he hasn't got the likes of Keke to bring his experience to the party.
Yeah,
that's Verstappen, Steve. Hamilton, back to what Jay Crick was saying, not getting the respect he deserves. And I feel that a little bit, because what we're seeing from my perspective as a new fan, it's got to be one of the best of all time doing what the bests of all time do. Find a way to win, find a way to claw themselves back into a title race they probably had no issue being back in a part of. And here we are. One more race, down to the wire. And if he takes it, this is going to be one of the greatest comebacks of a title race we've had for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't take anything away from him. Mercedes have found something extra special in that car the past few races, but he's been very good all season. There's been a few un-Hamilton-like errors, like Imola, for example, but that's obviously going back to right at the start of the season. There's been a lot less of those in recent races, and I think, while you almost would have said that around the summertime that this was Verstappen's title, the performance that Red Bull had, the performance and the consistency that Verstappen had, Hamilton's got no chance. And he's come back into it, and suddenly it only feels like a matter of weeks, really. He's come back from being so far behind to being level on points. You can't fight here. We can't defend, his fighting spirit. No, you can't defend. That's not the word. You can't deny. Can't deny his fighting spirit. Considering that after some of the races, like after yesterday's race, he looked absolutely knackered. On the podium, it looked like he was going to keel over at one point.
Yeah,
and you can tell that just took it out of him. And when was it? As the race? I can't remember what it was. A few races ago, and he was sitting down for a bit, and he was absolutely. He just looks completely wiped out after suffering. He reckoned he suffered from long COVID and all that sort of thing, but.
Which makes the story even more triumphant. But Max walking off the podium, Neil, where are we on that?
It goes down to, is he feeling the pressure? He must be. I think the same as Mercedes were feeling that everything went against them and they come back to fight another good day. And I think Red Bull feel a little bit hard done by on this one. The amount of 5-second penalties and the 10-second he got at the end, and he had at least 2 times he had to let Hamilton pass, with the fact that they then had to also decide to accept to be put to, third place on the grid. And all of these decisions, the FIA had a lot of involvement, and I think Red Bull feel hard done by with it all. And it's understandable under the adrenaline and the heat of the pressure. You can understand it.
Very disrespectful, though, isn't it, Steve?
I think it's a heat of the moment, and it is, like Neil said, it's adrenaline. You've been racing for over 2 hours. It's not gone your way. You feel like you should have won that race, maybe, and you're pissed off. You're fuming that you've not got that race win and that your lead has gone. So the last thing you really want to do is stand on a podium and look jovial and spray champagne around. I feel sorry for Bottas because he wanted to spray the champagne, but no one else really did. But I think, to be fair, if I was Max and I was in that position, I'd think, I just want to get out of this. I just want to cool down, spend some time either debriefing with the team or by myself and gather my thoughts. So I don't know if disrespectful. I mean, it's a bit thoughtless maybe, but at the end of the day, after 2 hours of racing, if you're that, you're fuming. We've seen it before. We'll see it again, no doubt. I
Okay.
think-
I can understand it is disrespectful to the tradition and the fact that we've come to this new place and handbags are out, and
Mm.
it doesn't help PR really, does it? But
No, but it does add,
You-
it does add a bit of edginess and bite to
It's-
to it. So
yeah.
in a way,
Mm.
it helps
It's-
PR in a way because it
it's-
creates
it's
that
understandable.
animosity.
I was meaning, the positive PR
Yeah,
for
yeah.
for the governing body of Formula One, what it stands for and everything. But as you mean, talking points and all that, it creates loads.
Mike Baker, what's the odds on Max taking out Lewis in the final race and taking the crown and more race wins? What do you think, gents?
I don't think they'll
Every
do that.
chance.
No, I don't think Red Bull will do that. They've got Perez for that. Whoops, he's locked up.
You think how many times it almost happened this race?
Yeah,
I was
Perez almost took
thinking-
Verstappen out on lap 1, didn't he? Turn 1.
It was very much Max was gunning for anything he could get, and obviously at that moment in time, if Hamilton hadn't have finished the race, it all benefits Max.
I know we've seen it in the past. There was that famous incident where Senna hit the back of Prost at turn 1 in Japan. Can't remember what year it was. I want to say 90. I can't remember. You sort of feel like when you look at it back, like, yeah, that was deliberate. Because if they fail to finish and it stays as it is, then Senna wins a title that year. And then Senna admitted that he did it on purpose. I don't know if Max would do that.
Particularly as Adam Plant says, because Spain was classed as a race, that would be even more was classed as because that would be controversial to the hills. That itself was.
As a Williams fan, I'm happy with Spa, but
well, you would be because
but
it was partial, and then you put that as the deciding race in the title. If this was to happen, that makes it even more so, doesn't it?
See, this is it. It's going to come down to this: the finest things, the littlest detail, the fastest laps. This is how is the fastest lap going to play out? Are they going to have to use Perez or Bottas to just get that extra point away from the main rival? But the comment from Jay Cook, 10-second penalty. Yeah, it was an odd one, wasn't it? Because he's still 16 seconds ahead of Bottas. 2 penalty points on the license, fair enough. But 10-second penalty.
I think though that, as I mentioned earlier, they felt they had too much input into the race already. A lot of their decisions basically made the outcome of the race, and they didn't want to take it any further. You think they could have severely punished him for being dangerous, but there was that time when Seb rammed into the side of Lewis. Nothing really happened with that, did it? And
it sort of took me back to that a little bit because it looked like Lewis brake checked him a little bit then, so Seb hit him and then just pulled alongside him and just hit him side on. It's stupid from Seb, really. Daft from Lewis, stupid from Seb. So
I don't see anything more dangerous in how little much that was a brake check than Seb on purposely pulling aside and ramming into him.
Yeah, that was silly from Seb. You'd expect more from a full-time champion.
The fastest lap may come into play because obviously it's whoever finishes above the other that will take the title, unless Hamilton finishes 9th, Verstappen finishes 10th, and Verstappen takes the fastest lap. Then Verstappen would win the title. However unlikely that sounds or appears, there obviously is that little bit of element of the fastest lap come into play then. Humes Bakery says, imagine thinking LH44 isn't the best ever and pressure's getting to Max. It's really, really fascinating, intriguing stuff that's going to bring people back to the sport of Formula One, which is what you want. And I know we've been saying all through this series, it's not about one particular driver or two particular drivers, about the whole grid. But it is, isn't it now? It's all about these two individuals, the incumbent living legend and the upstart who wants his first title. That's what it is. That's the storyline here. How do you see it going, the pair of you? What's your feeling? Is it the upstart or is it one of the greatest of all time that clings on to his title? Steve, what do you see?
I think it's going to be Max. I really do, because he's good at Abu Dhabi. the Red Bull, certainly last year, seemed to suit that circuit. He got a quite shock pole position there last year and then won the race. I think Max is just going to get it. It'll be a Max and Hamilton 1-2, I think.
Okay, so you think Max will finish first, Hamilton second? Will it be a last corner type affair? Will it go right down to the wire in the race itself? Or do you think it'll be pretty plain sailing all the way? It'll just be a case of hanging on to his first position.
I think it's going to be a close fight. Safety cars are quite rare, I think, in Abu Dhabi because there's so much runoff area. So if there is an incident, you're not going to have this sort of situation you had yesterday with cars diving into pits and not being able to pass. So I think strategy will have, it's obviously always going to be important. I think it will have less of an importance than it did yesterday or in other races this season. But I think it's going to be a close fought race, but Max is just going to edge it.
Okay. Neil. Steve's gone for the upstart. Close race, but the upstart will win it. First championship for Max Verstappen. What do you think?
I think that's also the way he wants it to go.
Yes. Yes. There's a little bit of the I'm bored of Hamilton winning it. I'm sick of Hamilton winning it. Please, God, anyone but let Hamilton win it.
I do have a feeling, even though the momentum seems to be with Mercedes, I do believe that Max could well, as Steve has just mentioned, take it. But the closer it's come to it, the more I actually want Lewis to get it again.
Really?
This has been brilliant to have a fight for it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I've really been for.
The good thing with this championship is no matter who gets it, they both deserved it. You know, with how hard they've both fought and how well they've both raced, sort of pushing beyond the limits of their cars at times. They both deserve a title. This is so frustrating because Hamilton at one point looked out of it. He's now level on points. Verstappen has driven the best he's ever driven. Some of his moves have been absolutely outstanding this year. Can't we just give them both half a title?
Well, no.
Just split it.
That's not
You
how
think
it works, I'm afraid, Steve.
if Verstappen wants to consider himself one of the greatest drivers of all time, if he gets the championship now, it's a good time because it gives him enough time to get many more. He's got a mountain to climb to catch up to Hamilton.
Yeah, Mike Baker, Max has got to win it this year because next year Russell will be as good as Lewis in the Mercedes.
Yeah,
there is that.
I really hope so. I think Russell's going to be in a championship fight next year for sure.
I got asked that
because I'm a big Russell fan.
I got asked that question, and I believe that Russell's up to it. If the fact that he went into it at the end of the other season and just not even knowing that car and then making Bottas look silly.
Yeah,
I just believe that he's got to give Lewis a run for his money with how quick he looked.
So next year could be a three-way run for the title.
I think so. Well, 2022, who knows what's going to go on? You could have Ferrari back up there as well.
Mazepin.
Yeah, we'll stay realistic. I just think I think Mercedes are going to have a good year next year. It could be quite tumultuous maybe because it could be another Rosberg-Hamilton situation. I doubt it for the first season. But, Russell's going to come in and upset the apple cart a little bit, and I think he'll be instantly on the pace when we get to the first race. He'll have obviously winter testing to settle into that car. Verstappen is going to have his work out next year because he's going to have Hamilton, who, if Hamilton doesn't win the title this year, he's going to be so hungry for it next year because he came so close. Russell is obviously, he's already proved himself, but Russell's going to be keen to show what he can do in a race-winning car over the course of multiple races, not just one race last year. I want to see Charles Leclerc back on the podium in top spot because the Monaco anthem sounds absolutely incredible. That's what I want for next year. Just Charles Leclerc to win some races again.
Neil, you've said Hamilton. Will it be a close race or will it be Hamilton all the way and just having to defend the position?
I think the way that the last race went, I think it will be the same again.
Okay, I'll write that down. We'll see who's right this time next week. Before we close, got two more talking points to discuss very quickly. First of all, I'll ask you quite a simple one. Saudi Arabia, the track you both weren't a fan of before the race, or certainly this time last week. What are your thoughts on it as a track now, Neil?
Well, the whole weekend there wasn't a session without a red flag for a first corner incident. So whether they'll have to adjust that, I don't know. But I'm not sure it was as much the track, or there was just so much that went on. It made it a good race. I'm not particularly sure the track brings a great deal to the party, because how difficult it is to overtake there, unless you've got a bit of straight line speed. Yeah, it's a bit of a follow the leader.
Lloyd says track was trash. Steve is a little bit follow the leader. Have to look at a few things. Neil is fucking wrong with me. I've only known Neil 14 years. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, still not a fan. Mazepin, yeah, where he crashed, there was no avoiding it. Everyone bottlenecks into one bit of the track. There's no runoffs at all. Very much like Monaco, but not as good. Yeah, it's on paper, it looks incredible, but you can have some spectacular crashes there, as we did see. We saw it in Formula 2, Formula 1.
Do you think that's the first time we'll see that? Do you think from here on in they will make adjustments over the summer, and that we won't see this kind of race again at Saudi Arabia? They'll tighten it up.
We're back there earlier on next season.
Second race of the season.
Yeah, so there's only a few months away, really. I think they've learned, so they'll make changes. I hope.
Yeah, I think that the next time we see it, it will be pretty much the same. But if any change is going to happen, it will be the season after, when they've actually got a bit of time to do something about it.
You see, I hope we never see changes to it. I really enjoyed the nature of this race, because it was unpredictable. It could, you had these incidences, and I know for aficionados like yourselves, that's probably not quite what you want. Probably too many stoppages, but for the armchair fan, and that's what I probably call myself, that makes for exciting, interesting racing when you're not quite sure what corner is going to produce what, and you got two people fighting it out like they were. Ocon, before we leave, last talking point. What do we think? Talk to me about that one then, Steve. Why is that on there?
Because he came so close to a podium. He did so well defending for lap after lap from Bottas in a far quicker Mercedes, and Bottas got him virtually on the line. So, and our poor, they were talking to him after the race on Sky, and he said, "Oh, don't push me. I want to cry." You could hear him, his frustration when he crossed the line, and he was thumping his steering wheel. And it would have been so good for him and for Alpine, but it wasn't to be.
Oh, that's sad. Now you've made me feel sad, and when they're on a sad note.
Well, I think there's a few comments here as well. Ian, too many teams? No, not enough teams. I think we need a couple more teams.
Just not Lotus.
Get Lotus back. Get Lotus back.
How many cars are on the grid? Is it still 20. About 20?
20 on the grid, but 24 at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we had Tyrrell and Arrows and all of those, Minardi.
Yeah, there were 22 at one point, and we had 24 because you had the likes of HRT, Lotus, and Virgin, or Marussia, or Mana, whatever they were called back then. They've obviously all dropped out.
The only way you get more cars back is by this type of racing and close title contenders, because it brings more costs. People. Yeah, but if you've got the eyeballs on your product, you will attract teams, even if cost is too high. From my perspective, it seems like Formula One has been a little bit painted by numbers for too long, with too many title races done, settled far too early, and not enough intrigue. Whereas this is intrigue. This is bringing fans back. Races like Saudi Arabia, I know it's too many stoppages maybe, but again, for armchair fans, it's exciting, because that's what isn't that what you're going to do, really, Steve or Neil? You're going to make it more commercialized. Get people back on there. Because aren't our ratings smaller than they used to be as well? Am I right in thinking that?
I don't know, because at one point they were always blating on about being how much better it is than MotoGP, and then for a while MotoGP picked up, and now they seem to have left each other alone a little bit. So I have no idea in respects to who considers themselves the bigger show and how
No.
good the viewings are and things. But
I do
Yeah.
want to see more teams and more cars in.
I've just had a quick Google search because obviously I'm not sure if I'm right there. That was an opinion. But Sky confirmed that the Bahrain race peaked at 2.23 million viewers, which is a record, I think. So they say here. But 2.23 million, that's not the greatest of number, is it, compared to other sports? I'd have thought.
No, I think next year we're going to see a drastic increase as well with how this is going.
Yeah. Do you think it being on Sky hurts it?
Yeah.
yeah, you think when it was on ITV or BBC, everyone would, turn up to, or even if they recorded it, that they would end up having it easy access, the proper coverage, because now I know you get on certain races, at least you get a few highlights, and there is another channel that will do bits and bobs, but it isn't the full official coverage, is it? So
No,
that's locked behind Sky.
Yeah, I was wrong, actually. Completely wrong. I apologise. It's not. There's not been a decline. It's actually been a boom, would you believe, according to this article. In August 2021, F1 audience at its highest since 2017. So I stand corrected, and I do apologise. But
is that also aided by that Netflix series?
Possibly so, and those sorts of things will definitely help. But those things only help when you get races like this, because otherwise, if you tune in and it's all done and dusted, and it's a bit not as exciting as a Netflix series, you tune out quickly, don't you?
Yeah.
So this is really intriguing stuff. Hamilton, Verstappen, Hamilton.
Also,
Ian, go on.
Mine for teams coming in, they're trying to make it more and more exclusive, so that the teams that are involved now they're actually worth something, and the fact that they're going to try and be able to make a profit by racing rather than make a big loss like they do most of the time. And that means that teams coming in will have to pay a substantial fee to be part of this exclusive club, which will put people off trying to be part of it. But there is the fact that if you believe any of the news headlines, that the Volkswagen Group might actually be close to getting involved.
There we go. We will wait to be seen. Mike Brown says, I'm going to go against the grain. I love the F1 channel. Got more in-depth and pit interviews. Lloyd says, absolutely love Drive to Survivor's help. Sorry. And Ian wonders if it will be a wet race next weekend in Abu Dhabi. Right. We've done our predictions for the race.
Unlikely.
I highly doubt
that.
I didn't want to
get
say
the sprinklers out.
Yeah, get the sprinkler out. We're done. We're dusted for this week. We're back. What time next week, Steve?
7:15 on Monday, when we will know who the 2021 Formula One World Champion is. Is it going to be Max Verstappen? Is it going to be Lewis Hamilton?
Here we go. We will wait to be seen. But until next week, he's the aficionado. He's Mr. Positivity when he turns up. And we're done. Until next week.